Tiny leaders, why tiny leaders failed. Will Frontier fail? Will Modern fail? MTG format discussion. Welcome in, much love. Trav here, and there's been a lot of talk about the Frontier format, and people are interested in that, doing new things in Magic. Maybe you are as well, want to know where things are going. What's the future? A good way to learn the future is to look into the past, look into the history, and one thing we can do for that is to look at Tiny Leaders, the format that was, that Wizards supported, that died, why did it exist in the first place, and what's going to follow. So Tiny Leaders, for those of y'all who don't know, it is a format that became somewhat popular. Wizards even supported it, and there aren't a lot of players right now. The way the format works was, it was like a mini Elder Dragon Highlander. You get a commander, but nothing can cost more than 3 mana. The decks are 50 cards, and you have 24 life or something like that. So a lot of people were like, hey, this is a fun, cool new thing. It's also one-on-one, best 2 out of 3. This is a fun, cool new thing. But what ended up happening, and this is at least the given reason that it failed, is that it became solved, it became stale. People came in for new experiences, people came in to make new things, and what they found out was the format is small, and because there's no rotations, it's pretty easy to solve. All the best decks got figured out, and it became play the best deck or lose. No one wants to do that, so people left. That's the given reason. I'm not sure that's the real reason, but actually that's a lot of the real reason. I think there's more to it than that. I say it's not the full reason because Wizards printed these EDH cards, the Partner Generals, which there's a ruling for Tiny Leaders that you can play with 4 colors now instead of 3, and it doesn't seem like anyone's really working on that. So even though, hey, there's nothing new, like I can't do anything new. Yes, you can. Just kidding, I don't want to play. All right, so why don't people want to play? Well, it has a lot to do, it does have a lot to do with the rotation. So we're gonna, for the staleness, we'll focus on that. Any format that does not have a rotation will be solved. New sets can shake things up, but then things will be solved until the next new set or mostly the next rotation. Banning is a form of rotation. Tiny Leaders, it sounds like, hasn't had much banning, so it hasn't had much forced rotation. Banning is not necessarily the answer because it's annoying, it blindsides people. Again, you're told, hey, buy into Modern, it'll be cheap over the long term, so you buy a twin deck, you buy a pod deck because there's no rotation. Guess what? There is rotation, and it's unexpected, and it will blindside you. At least with scheduled rotation, you know what's going to happen and when, right? So that's why Modern is always solved for the most part without rotation. It's big enough that there's metagame swings, but you know, again, it's still Infect versus Affinity. Legacy as well, it's Brainstorm, it's Force of Will. It's more or less solved. Solved doesn't mean there's one best deck. It means that things are figured out, the top decks are figured out, etc. So what's the real reason Tiny Leaders failed? My opinion. Here's another reason. It's not the big reason, which we'll get to in a moment. Tiny Leaders is a dumb name. It's stupid. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Comment if you think that that's mean and you don't agree. The concept is kind of dumb. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. But why? Why does this exist? And that brings me to the real reason that Tiny Leaders has failed and why Frontier might succeed. Tiny Leaders has no need. Everything needs a need. Were there people who were like, Elder Dragon Highlander is awesome. Commander is awesome. People who like, man, Commander's not doing it for me because I want one-on-one competitive Commander. Maybe a few people who are like that. You have this format that is competitive, casual, competitive. People are not clamoring for it. There's no real clear need. People aren't asking, I really want this format because Elder Dragon Highlander is too stale. And maybe you are, it doesn't seem like there's a majority, right? Everything needs a need. Standard has a need. People need to play with new cards and have new experiences. Standard is great for that. People need to play new cards and have new experiences for cheap. Limited is good for that. People need something to do with their older cards. So you have Modern and Legacy. It does make sense. Modern and Legacy do make sense. and they're supported by Wizards, so they're not going anywhere. So Tiny Leaders had no need, it's doomed to fail. Frontier, does Frontier have a need? It turns out Frontier may actually have a need, and it's the same need that Pauper fills, and that's cost. If I can't afford, I need to play Constructed. It's fun. I want to play with new cards. I gotta play Constructed. Standard, too expensive for me. Can't afford. Modern, too expensive for me. Can't afford. What can I do? Well, Frontier exists, and that's why we have Frontier. It's kind of like Pauper. It's more expensive than that, but you can play it for cheap. It's not rotating like Standard, so your Standard cards rotate out, you can play it. It's not as expensive as Modern, and remember, Frontier is coming from Japan, where there's more players per card, so Modern and Standard are even more expensive, so Frontier fills that need. And that reason, it might stick around, even though it's doomed to be solved. Frontier is guaranteed to be solved. It's a small format that's non-rotating. New cards will come in, but things will get solved quickly, and it will get stale, and people will not want to play it for that reason, and probably look to some new format. Instead of coming up with new formats, instead of coming up with regular bannings, aka unexpected rotations, let's just bring back a bigger rotation format. Obviously, duh, right? Agree, disagree, mad, angry. Tiny Leaders is an awesome name. You wrong, bro. Leave comments. It's all right. Shitpost, troll, or be real. What do you think? What do you think's the answer here? Why do you care? Do you not care? Do you play these formats? Do you think this is accurate? We want to know. Leave a comment down below. We gotta go. Much love, Trav here, and I look forward to seeing what you have to say. Take action. Peace.